Hey, this is Tony Boss Bolin coming to you from the Lincoln Addict Podcast.
Hey, it's Jason ODB, the Lincoln Addict, hitting you with another episode, milestone episode 25. Thanks for everyone that continues to come back here and listen via your favorite podcast app. Certainly appreciate that. So, Lincoln Addict episode 25. Man, this is a jam-packed episode. We got so much to talk about. A wonderful guest I'll talk about in a minute. I do want to stop and give a huge shout-out to our key partners, including Devious Customs. Jeff and team at Devious Customs continue to produce some of the best parts we've ever seen for these Lincolns, whether you're looking to do a resto mod or potentially keep your car looking kind of factory-ish, right? He makes a lot of different stuff. They produce a lot of stuff in-house. If you go to deviouscustom.com and you just take a look at some of their different kits, you can go to kits and parts. And then what I do, I tell people to go and shop Lincolns. And when you do that, it's going to pull up all the different things, whether it's a fuel tank that you want, the suspension kits. He sells the Dakota digital gauges. Also, one of the newer products is the Lincoln Continental gauge bezel set for the 1 through the 3, 61 through 63. They're made out of billet aluminum, so you can get rid of that pot metal. So much more, deviouscustoms.com. They're also, of course, on Facebook and Instagram. Next, Colorado Custom Wheels. I talk about Colorado Custom all the time. I'm running these wheels on my 64 Lincoln Continental. ColoradoCustom.com. You can go to one-offs and take a look at some of the stuff they've done. They also will, if you want a one-off wheel, they'll make it. They also make the Lincoln replica wheels. They've made tons of these sets. And they're pros when it comes down to the back spacing that you need, depending on if you're running bigger brakes, factory brakes. Was it what year car was it? That type of thing. Michael and team have dealt with this a lot. They'll take care of you. That way, when you get your custom wheels in, they'll fit. You won't have an issue. And one thing that I love about the Colorado Custom wheels is you have a little bit of a lip to them. I've seen this trend with people going with wheels and everybody has a preference, but, kind of being for the mini truck world, I love a wheel that has a little bit of a lip. When some of these wheels that people are running nowadays kind of have that front flat face, more of like what I think of as like a front wheel drive type car wheel. But again, Colorado Custom, check it out on Instagram, Facebook, or coloradocustom.com. So with all of that out of the way, again, jumping into episode 25, want to give you guys kind of just this highlight overview, and it's my honor to say that we're going to have Adam Genei from Mobsteel / Detroit Steel Wheel Co. on this episode. When I started thinking about doing Lincoln Addict Podcast many years ago, I knew in my head certain guests that I wanted to have on. We've had some of those folks on, so kind of check mark there. Adam was really at the kind of the top of that list as well, which I certainly appreciate, and this is one of my favorite interviews, right up there kind of with John Cashman, and really appreciate, whether you're into Lincolns or not, this episode is fantastic because Adam is a really positive guy, very forward-thinking, and I can't wait to bring the audio to you guys here just in a little while. Before we get to that, I would tell you to go and check out Mobsteel on Instagram or Facebook, Detroit Steel Wheel Co., also, Emma, Mobsteel Emma, I think Pam is on there, which is Adam's wife. Of course, Steve-O is a great guy. And then Adam has his own Instagram as well. But, they all fall under the Mobsteel. But, of course, they have their individual ones as well. So, go out there, very hardworking, blue-collar type folks that are trying to make a difference, especially in their city. He'll talk about that. And shout out to Mobsteel. But shout out to Emma. I've got a chance to meet Emma a couple times at one of my favorite truck shows in the world, Lone Star Throwdown, every February in Conroe, Texas. There's usually a couple Lincolns out there as well. She comes out, and same thing she does at SEMA or any other event, she'll line up and track down who's running those Detroit Steel Wheel wheels, and she just does a fantastic job with taking photos, and then they take that for their social media, some of their branding, their website. You name it, Emma is not the man. She's the woe man, okay? So Mobsteel Emma, just look her up on Instagram. Many of you are probably following her. She does a great job, and shout out to her. Thank you for lining up Adam to come on this episode. But the episode overview is brought to you by Steel Rubber. I've often talked about great products out there. There's really none greater when it comes to certain parts you need for your cars than Steel Rubber, STEELE rubber.com. You'll land on their website, and then you can select the year, make, model, and style. So, sedan, convertible, coupe, you name it, depending on your vehicle. And, of course, they make stuff for boats and all that stuff as well, RVs. But for these Lincolns, I've talked about it a lot. We've had Steel Rubber on before. One of the most important things you can do is replace those old, worn-out weather strips. They make a ton of them. They make almost every piece, depending on the make and model and year, from kind of like 61 to 69. There's still a few small things out there, but for the most part, I've talked about it with my 64. When I ordered the parts, man, I ordered pretty much everything they had, and they delivered it. I did a video a long time ago. I think it's out on our YouTube channel. You can search like Lincoln Addict Steel Rubber, and you'll see that. So shout out to Steel Rubber. Now, the previous episode recap, kind of just a short overview here of the previous episode, just to kind of give folks insight. If you're new, I'm sure we're going to pick up hopefully some listeners with this episode, having Adam on from Mobsteel and Detroit Steel Wheel. Please, if you get a chance, however you're listening, click that follow or subscribe, right? So it depends what app you're using. It'll say one of those two words. It's free. That's the main thing you got to know. And when you subscribe and or follow, that will basically notify you. So if you're on an iPhone, like many of us are, and you're using that pre-installed podcast app, that purple icon, you'll basically get a notification, that, hey, a new episode has dropped. If you're on Android, Podbean is a fantastic app. And then some of you are listening on YouTube. I think around episode 22, 23, I fixed whatever glitch there was, and these episodes will batch over to YouTube, and you can listen there, of course, as well. If you're on YouTube, please subscribe. The best experience really is listening through a podcast app. So I have spent some time, and I've went out there, and I've submitted the podcast to different outlets. So if there's an outlet that maybe, hey, you usually listen to podcast on and you don't see it, shoot me an email, Lincoln Addict podcast at gmail.com, and I'll do my best to get that submitted. So appreciate everyone. But the last episode recap, that's what I meant to go over here. It was episode 24, kind of a shorter episode, but I kind of went over what I call things going on in the LC. And I'm not talking about Lincoln Continental, I'm talking about the Lincoln community. So, it's great to bring these episodes, and what I've had to kind of tell myself is that, people are, just like me, I just want that content. So there's a lot always going on in the Lincoln community, whether it's events or it's new products that we've continued to see come out from different companies. And I'll continue pretty good, I think a good round number is going to be about bi-weekly. I think technically last week would have been bi-weekly for the new schedule, but I am going to, I'm not going to talk about trying to do it. I'm just going to make it happen. And every 2-3 weeks, you'll see a new episode drop, some with a guest, some with just key updates. And thanks to everyone that has given a thumbs up or a comment. I've had people message me or leave a comment on YouTube to say, hey, you helped me out. Appreciate your time. Lately I've been doing some different stuff on YouTube through Lincoln Addict, and I do it to help people. I do it also because I enjoy doing it. But, it means a lot when somebody goes, hey, man, appreciate it. You saved me some money. You steered me the right way. Or, hey, I just enjoy the content. So, again, with the last episode, go back and listen to it. If you're new, you can check it out again. Just, if you're in the pre-installed podcast app, go back to that previous episode. Now, eventually, we'll have enough of these where the only way to be able to go back, I don't know what podcast apps go back to now, 24, 50 episodes, I don't know. But Podbean, which is an app on Android or iPhone, or you can go to Lincoln Addict on the website. You can listen there through that app, and it's pretty simple. But since they host the podcast, you'll always be able to go back to the beginning. So the previous episode recap brought to you by our family at Griot's Garage. I had Nick on. I was so honored to have Nick Griot on. And if you're not following them, you're missing out. He had hinted at their new products that were coming, and I just watched last night on their YouTube channel the update for their ceramic type products, and I tell you what, I'm pretty impressed. I have a lot of their stuff, but I don't have the new stuff, so I'll be talking about that in the near future, and I'll be also doing some videos on our YouTube channel. I'll be detailing the red car that I own, and I'm looking forward to that. So Griot's Garage, Griots Garage.com. They're, of course, pretty much on all social media channels, including YouTube. Now, speaking of past guests in Griot's Garage, I did want to give a huge shout out to Nick again for coming on, and I can't thank him enough. He's a great dude. I posted his feature recently, and he had the 63 Lincoln Continental that we talked about, kind of the hot rod Lincoln, but really well done. And that, I don't think we talked about it when he was on, but a guy by the name of Chris Shelton, shot it, and it ran in Street Rodder Mag September of 2019. If you ever want to try to kind of get your hands on that older issue, the main title of it is "Home is Where the Hot Rod Is," and just some amazing rolling shots of the car. So I did recently come across some of those photos in my album in terms of my phone, and I wanted to share that. So. Huge shout out to Nick. Love what he's doing over there, kind of on the social media front. Griot's Garage again. Huge shout out. All right, so just some general Lincoln life updates. The only thing that I think I have to share is, maybe there's a couple. So I did a pre-sale on the shirts recently, and we had a good amount of numbers for the pre-sale. So thanks to those that placed an order on LincolnAddict.com, the new website. If you haven't and you want to get a shirt, I submitted and paid for that pre-sale through who we go through, Graphic Disorder, okay? You can go to LincolnAddict.com and you can order a shirt. Now, what I do is I order a few extra in different sizes that sell the most, and I put those out there for you to purchase. Now, if that order comes in, let's say, you're hearing this on Friday and you go, man, I want to place an order. Please note it's going to be a couple weeks before those ship. Once they ship, I will send an email. I'll blast it out to everyone that has placed an order, and I'll say, hey, good news, they're on their way to us. Once I get them, I will get those turned around pretty quickly. I like to get the pre-sales out as quick as I can, and once I ship them, then I update the tracking number through the website, and then biggity boom, you then have your tracking number, and then you'll get your shirt a couple days later. So LincolnAddict.com, there's one shirt in one color. It's the black shirt, and it's just to kind of get the brand going. Believe it or not, I've been sitting on this artwork for over a year thanks to my friend Tony at Asphalt Army. A great guy. He's got his whole brand popping off with all kinds of cool merch on his website, and I commissioned him to do some artwork for me, and we had launched the stickers, right? And I kept telling myself, man, I need to get this off the ground because I've got all these other things in the works and these other ideas and things like that. And before you know it, I'll wait too long and I'll procrastinate, and someone else will come out with it. So got to get it going. Again, LincolnAddict.com. If you want to make a purchase, there's 2 stickers available. If I have the stickers in stock, I'll ship them quick. Of course, if you order a shirt, the sticker will ship with the shirt. And I did have to re-up the stickers, so the white sticker and the blue sticker, I'll have more of those coming. Again, you can order them on the website. The other update is I'm recording this portion on Thursday. Richard Lund from Suicide Slabs fame, Richard, as we call him Lund, I call him Lund, he is in town in Clearwater. I know today he went and kind of did some gallivanting around the state, and we're going to go see him probably Friday night, get some drinks, get a little bit of dinner, and it's pretty cool. I haven't seen Richard in a while. I was out in Dallas many years ago. I was just looking at those photos, and on a future episode of the podcast, maybe I'll get Richard on, and we got to talk about what happened when I went to Dallas. You won't believe it. I was one night away. This isn't the part, but I do want to share this. I was one night away from meeting Andre 3000 from Outkast. If you guys listen to our Lifestyle podcast or you've listened here, you know I'm a big hip-hop fan. And I had sat down at this place getting a drink, and the bartender goes, man, you know who was sitting in that same chair last night? And I was like, I don't know who. Andre 3000 from Outkast. I was like, no way. And she goes, yeah, let me show you the photos. And she had like 20 selfies with them. And sure enough, she goes, he was in here last night, just chilling. Super nice guy. But that's, a little bit of what happened that night. Craziness ensued. And again, maybe on a future episode of Lincoln Addict Podcast, I could talk about that, and I'll share that with everyone and maybe get Richard on. I did, with texting him this week, I did say, hey, man, dude, we got to get you on. You're part of, the original crew that started it. Him and Psycho is kind of the way I always think about it, but I want to get the true story from him and then talk about not only does he have the Awesome 61 Sleeping Beauty, but then he's got, the other car that he picked up. He's got a couple. Dude's got a lot of cool stuff going on. So good family dude. Don't give him enough credit for, what those guys do with Suicide Slabs and, of course, their Instagram and Facebook, and I think they're on TikTok. They got all that cool stuff going on. But rest assured, man, I'm down with Richard. He's a cool dude. I've got a chance to hang out with him before when I was in Dallas. Got a chance to ride, literally sitting on a Lincoln kind of up on the flapper through Dealey Plaza. And, man, it just was surreal. Had a lot going through my head when I went there. It was finally my opportunity to go see Dealey Plaza. If you guys know me, I'm a big kind of JFK buff. I love reading books. I'm reading this crazy book right now. I just as a kid, my birthday was on 11/23. He was, of course, assassinated on 11/22. Now, we're pretty far apart in the years, but growing up, I would always see the different documentaries and stories and all the stuff that would air on the news about the conspiracy and all that stuff. So I kind of always have been intrigued by it. So when I went out there years ago, again, I got a chance during the day after my work shift to go and do the Dealey Plaza and the sixth floor museum, as it's dubbed. More on that, too, by the way, because I kind of made this cool connection about a car that ties into that fateful day. And it's not the car that the president was riding in, but I'll be posting about that in the near future. But after that, I was there kind of several days, and I got a chance to link up with Richard and some of his homies that night. And that's when we did the cruise through Dealey Plaza, so it was good times. But I want to say those are the only Lincoln Life updates that I have for this episode. I mean, kind of short there, and we'll just move on to Lincoln sales. So I've said before, this kind of segment is either maybe a car that I'm helping someone sell or some trends that I'm seeing in kind of the industry. And that's what I cover in this segment. And all I can tell you is the same thing I said on the last one. Sales are on the rise. And not only in the Lincoln community, but we've seen it kind of in the classic car market, whether it's trucks or cars. You turn on Mecum or Barrett Jackson, you see just, prices through the roof. That's a good thing for a lot of people. If you go out and you subscribe on our YouTube channel, you'll see that I had gotten this idea from different people, and I kind of pieced together how I wanted to do what I'm doing. And I basically go out and I'll do a review of a listing. Most of the time, they're current listings on eBay, Bring a Trailer, you name it, these different outlets. Sometimes they're recently ended classified. And, it gives us an opportunity to talk through why did a car maybe sell for a little bit more money, what drove the sale higher. Let's look at the presentation of the car. Let's look at the photos. I will talk through some of the things I immediately look at, where to look for potential rust and things like that. And like I've told people, I mean, I'm not the utmost expert. I've been around a lot of people that have. If you combined all the years of like a John Cashman, Blair Farmer, TC, Chris Dunn, some of the people that, work at Lincoln Land, and you combine all of those years, I mean, that's a high number of people that have been around, 200, 300 plus years of people that have been around, again, if you tally them all together. And, that's a lot of knowledge, right? So I try to take all that and kind of go, hey, if you're looking to buy one of these cars, this is what you want to look for. This is what you want to avoid. And by doing those reviews, that's my way to kind of give back a little bit to all the people that have helped me. So again, I've seen a lot of cool comments, and I'm going to continue to do more tech videos as I find time. And of course, I've got plenty to do. So I'll keep at it. But again, for this segment, I want to reinforce, go out to YouTube, search Lincoln Addict, hit subscribe or follow, and boom. Now, someone did recently comment, and I'd have to find it. I didn't save it for this episode, but I do want to talk about in the future how Bring a Trailer works. And what I mean by that is it's gaining a lot of steam, and I'm sure like even eBay is kind of scratching their head because for a long time, eBay was like the place, okay? But what I've noticed is Bring a Trailer is kind of on the rise, right, as we always say. But there is a process, and I think it's the buyer maybe has a fee. But there was a gentleman that had chimed in on one of my posts, and let me just see if I can find it real quick. Lewis Leal says, Lincoln Addict, I think to sell his car, it was a listing fee, $125 he thinks. The buyer, on the other hand, pays the 5% fee, which is really where Bring a Trailer makes their money. And he said, he kind of went on to say, much better than those other auctions where the fees are charged to both buyer and seller. So, a very interesting point, and I want to maybe dive more into that in the future. Like, talk to someone that maybe has sold the car. Like, was it just 125 on their end? Like what he's kind of saying, and then biggity boom, someone buys, a car for 30 grand, and then, boom, they tack on a fee. So to me, that's kind of cool how they do it. If that's the way it works and that's the way it breaks down. But we'll talk more about that in the future. Now, if you go on Instagram and follow Boss Bolin, BossBolin, that's my brother from another mother, Tony Boss Bolin. He also has the Instagram Death Row Lincolns, kind of a story behind that we'll share in the future. But if you follow Boss Bolin, he had just shared a 65 Lincoln Continental that's for sale for 25 grand. Okay, it's a convertible. It runs, it drives, it stops. Now, it's not a perfect car. It's far from perfect. When you look at the photos, you go, man, it looks pretty good. Tony's had eyes on it. It is a car I think that could be saved from my understanding. I haven't seen it, so I don't want to give it the thumbs up or thumbs down. But if you are in the market for a convertible and you want more information, hit up Boss Bolin, B-O-S-S Bolin, B-O-L-I-N, on Instagram. He's pretty good about direct messages, so you can send him a DM, and if you want more information. I think he's just helping someone kind of kick it down the road in terms of a sale. He's not, looking to make commission on it or anything like that, so he could give you the real deal on it. But that's all I have this week for the Lincoln Sales segment. I do want to thank AccuAir. We partner with them very closely over at Our Lifestyle Podcast, also known as OLP. So I certainly appreciate them. If you're looking for air management for your vehicle from an air suspension perspective, visit AccuAir.com. You'll see that they have a all-new redesigned website. They even sell merchandise now, including shirts and all kinds of stuff, air fresheners, you name it. But AccuAir.com, I love AccuAir. I've had it on several vehicles. I'll be running it on my 64 Lincoln Continental, and I can't thank AccuAir enough. So big ups to the team at AccuAir. All right, next we have Lincolns in movies, TV shows, and/or music videos. This one's quick. There's an article on MeTV, if you want to check it out. Perry Mason is filled with some of the most beautiful cars ever made. And this gave me a little bit of insight. I have not ever went back and watched a lot of these episodes. I've seen a few. There is on this list of MeTV, 1965 Lincoln Continental convertible, The Case of the Twice Told Twist. And it says, in later years, notably the final season, Perry has traded in for a fresh Lincoln Continental. Thanks to this one outlier episode in full color, we get to see the baby blue shade. Unfortunately, the car gets pretty stripped here. If you have Amazon, you can go back and watch, as of right now, the episode. If you just want to see that segment, I did kind of a quick edit, and I put it on our YouTube channel and social media. If you go back and watch the episode, though, there's a lot of product placement with the Ford Econoline van, of course, the 65 Lincoln Continental, Mustangs, and so on. So it's a pretty cool episode, and as I mentioned right there, it was only the only episode, my understanding, that was in color. So it's pretty cool. it's a little disheartening what they do to the car, but someone did point out that when he pulls in, the interior is one color, and if you look closely, they do kind of a good job of kind of concealing, but it does look like it was a plant car, so that, hopefully they didn't take away apart a brand new car. Now, some of the things they did, I mean, it wasn't super bad. When they started taking the convertible stuff apart, I'm like, eh. But check it out. Again, you can go on our YouTube channel. You'll see those clips, or you can go on Amazon Prime and look up, I think it's the last season, The Case of the Twice Told Twist. And again, if you're in the older Ford stuff, including Lincoln's, you'll appreciate kind of some of the time capsule of how it was filmed and some of the stuff that you'll see in there. All right, last couple things. Smuggler's Blues and my other car, Rita Hayworth, right? So those are the names of them. Those, really no updates to share. So haven't had a time to really even cruise the cars much, other things going on. But, of course, summer's here, and I'm going to be working on some of the air-conditioned stuff and a few other things. So rest assured, more to come on both of my project cars. And when I say project cars, they're nice cars. They're just, everything to me is a project. Lastly, before we roll into Adam's audio, I want to give a huge shout out to all the people who have watched our YouTube channel or helped increase our subscriber base. We're well over 500 now on YouTube. I got to get to 1,000. Obviously, it'll start growing from there. And we also have to get our minutes watched up to 4,000. So please, if you can, if you ever watch or come across, something on our YouTube channel, watch it all the way through if you can. If you're at work and you're listening to the podcast, let it run through the whole way, so on and so forth. It really, really helps me out. So thank you. And shout out to everyone that's come back here to continue listening to Lincoln Addict Podcast. I've had some good words of wisdom from people and people that have said, hey, man, keep doing what you're doing, and it means a lot. So thanks to everyone that continues to support. I want to thank Devious Customs for all the support. Jeff and team, I'm going to be running their full suspension kit once Jimmy hopefully bags my car. Fingers crossed soon. Colorado Custom, I'm running those wheels on my car. I love those wheels. Michael and team, as I said earlier, great people. Steel Rubber, STEELE rubber.com. Hit them up. And then also, by the way, Griot's Garage, Nick and team, fantastic folks. If you want to learn more about steel or Griot's Garage, go back and listen to previous episodes here. Devious Customs, Jeff has been on as well. You can go back towards the beginning. And then Michael, I need to have him on. He was on back in the number 30s with Our Lifestyle Podcast. I think it was like 33 or 35. So that was many, many, many years ago. But shout out to all of our partners. Everyone, have a safe weekend. Enjoy this audio from Adam Genei from Mobsteel. Shout out to Emma and the entire team at Mobsteel and Detroit Steel Wheel Co. Great people. Stay on the rise. We out of here. Peace. Hey, as I mentioned, man, so excited on this episode, Lincoln Addict Podcast, to bring Adam Genei on. How you doing, Adam?
Hey, what's happening? How you doing?
Man, everything's good, man. Thank you so much for taking some time. Man, when I started this Lincoln podcast several years ago, I kind of had an idea of some folks I wanted to have on, and you were at the top of the list, so I certainly appreciate you taking the time.
Oh, man, I dig it. I mean, anything Lincoln, anything cars you want to talk about, of course, I'm game.
That's awesome, man. Did you? I did watch over the course of time a couple of shows that you guys have had, and I followed your business very closely for many years. Why don't you share a little bit of information, like maybe where you grew up and stuff? Because I kind of have a feeling, but I don't know if everyone that listens to the podcast knows.
Yeah, I grew up in a suburb of or the outskirts of Detroit, quiet place, up Brighton, Michigan. But it was just like every other community that serviced the metro city. It was all revolved around automotive. I grew up just on the west side of the proving grounds, GM proving grounds, and so it was just a part of our life. We used to ride snowmobiles around it as kids, and I had relatives that worked there, and all over the place too. Our family came from downriver, and my grandfather worked downtown and was in the steel mill business for a while, and then started his own company. And the other half of my family was in the dealership business. So it was just cars all over the place, and a lot of really, really positive influence, a lot of business influence. And I came from a family and a community of some some pretty hardcore people, really good people, good work ethic, some successful people. So I had some really good influence. But I think I started to kind of understand, like a lot of us kind of were raised the same out here. It was the American workforce type influence was a big deal for us growing up, and kind of become what we valued.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like I think a blue collar, I think a hard working folks, many Americans that, if you think about the impact they had on all the vehicles that came through that area that got shipped out to the rest of the country and the world, it's pretty amazing. Did you kind of feel like, me being a Lincoln fan and kind of looking back at the history of a lot of the dealerships and how they used to look and things like that, it's so neat to me, the history of a lot of that. Did you find yourself getting a chance to kind of hang out at the dealerships and stuff like that, and you probably have some fond memories of those early days?
I mean, as a family, I come from, two pretty big families. The side of the family that was the dealership side, we used to have Christmas in the showroom. So Christmas morning, there would be this giant table and the Christmas tree, and we were amongst, there could have been a Model T in the corner, or the new model SPO sitting there or something. Just really exciting stuff as a kid. When you're into cars, but we just were. It was just embedded in us. But yeah, it was exciting. Dealerships and the industry, obviously has continued to evolve. But the dealerships are just such a neat part of it. It's really the glamorous side where you get to see the finished product and you get to celebrate it. They used to introduce it to people there, and it was kind of the first time outside of the International Auto Show as a kid that you got to put your hands on it. And, so dealerships were awesome. I mean, they were like, for me, it was like, it's probably the greatest place you could go without buying a ticket to get in. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, and having collected, I try to collect stuff for 64, 65 Lincolns, and, some of the collateral and stuff like that. Some's a little easier to get, some's a little harder, but it's neat too, like to your point, like I look at some of the old postcards and stuff where they had the dealerships on them, and you think back to the Lincoln Mercury days, and I mean the showrooms and the little dealerships were almost like, I mean, people wanted to go there, so it is cool, that rich history, if you will, of, that I guess I call kind of like Americana. There was that TV show called that for a while, but I think of that, that impact to so many lives, like the people that sold the cars and the people that serviced them and all. A lot of cool history there.
We just spent some time at the Gilmore here in Michigan, and I'm trying to remember the exact town they're in, but they just got this crazy spread out there. It's just near Kalamazoo, and they've got a whole a thing they call Dealership Row, and they have reproduced full-scale dealerships, and you go inside of like a Cadillac dealership or a Mercury dealership, and you get to walk through generations of those vehicles, and they're all very significant vehicles, but just the way that it was reproduced and the look and the feel, it's really neat. So we had just recently done that. That was super cool. It was like stepping back into time.
Wow.
If you ever get out there, I'd highly recommend that. It's probably one of the neatest experiences, getting to step inside what, celebrating some of that dealership type moments is pretty cool.
Yeah, I've got to check that or add it to my list. And I know my friend Tony has said how even I haven't made it to the Ford stuff. I know that they built so much around the Ford Museum and all that. And he said, dude, he goes, you can't go there in just one day, man.
No, it's all over the place. I mean, I love when people stop by the showroom and they're like, hey, what should I visit around here? We're like, well, how long are you here? And we're flying out tomorrow. You're like, you know what I mean? Like it's so much. Between all of the places they celebrate the history of the automotive industry, from Greenfield Village and the museums, and the Detroit Historical Society has quite a collection, and we've worked with them. We even got a chance to restore one of their one of a kind vehicles. And it was really cool stuff. It's all over the city, and then spread out throughout it. Some of the greatest car collections. I mean, just incredible car collections around here. That people let the public come in and look at them, and have certain events that wrap around them. So it's all over the place, man. I recommend anybody who's remotely interested in, anything from, automotive manufacturing to, just the history and into cars. it's a great place to come visit for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I'm adding it to the list, man. Before we talk about Mobsteel, which I do want to hit on, of course,
Mm-hmm.
I always think of Lincoln. I've always loved Lincoln since I was pretty young, and I think of Lincoln's tied to Mobsteel. But you probably have to have some fond memories, like as we've kind of talked about and established, of seeing different cars and things. Or were there, when you were in your younger years, like did you see a certain vehicle or a certain type of car that you were like, man, I want that? I know everybody kind of has different maybe fond memories, but I wasn't sure if maybe Lincolns were something that you had stuck in your mind even at an early age.
Yeah, I mean, Lincolns go way back. I mean, I played in one in my grandfather's barn as a kid. It was a '65. It was my uncle's,
Wow.
and it was just, it was one of those things. I absolutely loved the car. I was fascinated by the suicide doors, the stance of it, and it was just, I loved the car. And they had Broncos, and obviously there were so many different cars I would want, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
By the time I was picking out cars, and by the time I actually bought a car and could drive, I probably picked out hundreds of vehicles, and got down to customizing them, and what I would do to them, and before I even knew that I was going to be into customizing cars. You know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
I remember taking actual pictures of Lincolns, and I would take an X-Acto blade and I'd cut around the fender wells and everything, and then I would lower the body over the wheels, and I would Scotch tape it all back up, and I would put it on the refrigerator.
The old school Photoshop.
So yeah, so I was like, we were already bagging them out. I don't know how I was going to get it that low, but I just knew it looked cool because I like some of the lowrider stuff. I was influenced by some of the West Coast stuff that was going on, and
Yep.
and I love the Lincoln. So I was applying all these visual things that I thought was cool, and so I was doing it before I even knew I was going to do it, I think.
Yeah.
But the Lincoln's been around for a long time. It's always been one of my favorites. But again, there's so many things I can pick out about vehicles, and there used to be things that I picked out about vehicles I didn't like, and then found out that they really grew on me. Some of these design changes become something that I really love, and it's also broadened my horizon too. So it keeps getting worse, I think, as I get older. Right, my bucket list is just ridiculous.
Yeah, I know. I know what you mean. One thing that I know we're similar in age. I grew up in the era of turning on MTV and seeing Ice Cube. It Was a Good Day, and of course the Chronic, one of my favorite albums. And you see the Lowriders, and
Absolutely.
This year is going to be the 30th anniversary in December of the Chronic, which is crazy. And I think to myself,
Yeah.
how much that influenced a lot of us, and Eazy-E going 6-0. But then you think about how Dr. Dre and Snoop did the Super Bowl this year, and if you spend any time on Instagram, I mean, the amount of lowrider themed pages and songs and cars, it's amazing. That piece of our culture in terms of vehicles and stuff is just amazing. I love that it's still around, man.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up. I mean, from the start of it, my playlist is full of it. There's no
Yep.
there's no denying it. There's no denying it. And so I was influenced by the same thing a lot. I remember when my mom got in one of my cars, and I had the Chronic. I just got, and I just got it.
Yep.
And my mom pops it out of the player and literally just chucks it out the window when we were driving. She'll attest to the story. I was like, what? I just bought that. She's like, that is the most crude thing I've ever heard.
Yeah. The same with
I thought my mom would be down.
Yeah.
Well, I thought she'd be down with listening to that. I had no idea, but whatever,
Yeah.
So
I think
good.
a lot of us have, and it's funny now because tape cassettes are highly collectible and stuff. Here I am, oh no, don't throw that away. But it's crazy how how times go. But speaking of Mobsteel, many of us have. I mean, dude, I've followed it since I think the website was first up. I mean, I've always enjoyed it. But there's got to be a little bit of a backstory, maybe on when you finally said, "Hey, I'm going to start this business." Can you tell us a little bit of that history?
Yeah, I mean, Mobsteel was just kind of it was just a thing where I just wanted to design and build stuff and work with metal, and I was already a gearhead. I'd already customized a bunch of vehicles, and that was just my thing. And I'd been into boats, and I'd been into motorcycles and all kinds of stuff. And I was into all kinds of other things, like just anything fab up. I mean, furniture and anything design wise and build wise. And I just kind of like thought it was a neat hobby. And then, the economy was terrible, and we were just having a lot of fun doing it. And one of the first Lincolns I put out, I finished. I had several of them, and I just never had the time or money to finish them. And it kind of got me motivated to finish one of them and just kind of push everything forward. Of sharing what I thought was cool in my hobby. And Mobsteel was just kind of a cool thing. It was just a group of guys at the time. My cousin Steve and my buddy Nate and a bunch of other people would come in and out. And it was just kind of like a consortium of some talented people, and I really wanted to make something of it and showcase their talents and see where it could go. And people came and gone, and as my years of chasing, I let that first Lincoln go, and it was so poorly received and so well received at the same time that you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I knew I was onto something. I knew I was onto something because most people didn't get it. And I got a lot of questions. And that was for years. Like, that wasn't just the first year. The first year was brutal. Some of the things that were said to us were pretty abrasive. And we weren't particularly the most tamest of people at the time either. We were young.
Right.
This was like almost 2 decades ago.
Yep.
So, it was different times, and we were received differently, and we reacted differently. But eventually it was one of those things where it was well received too by some people. And then that in turn, the grittiness of it and the uniqueness of it and its persona, being from the Midwest and being more of the worker side of things, and a vehicle that maybe was a little more reasonable and maybe not just didn't hit the radar of most cars that were out there, man. You're talking 68 Camaros, 67 shoebox Novas. Things were getting done that were very high end. Restaurants, you're like the West Coast community at the time. Boyd Coddington was a big name at the time. So that was the world that we were playing in, saying, hey, now Mobsteel is going to be a custom car builder. So we got this reaction out of people with this Lincoln. And so it was a huge uphill battle, in terms of anybody accepting it or anybody thinking it was cool initially. But again, there was that other side where people were like, hang on, you know what I mean? This is really cool. And, the talent side, the worker side of it, and it just drew people in. We just had some awesome people come in and out of that business and donate, the best of what they had. And it was just, that was really like the big thing that became Mobsteel, really, was the people inside of the building. And it was exactly kind of what it was named after, And so as I kept trying to figure out, what to do with this, Mobsteel continually was a magnet for talent during some pretty tough times in the industry. And we were super fortunate to have people come in and out of that building that when put together on kind of the same path and the same goal, no matter our indifferences or attitude problems or whatever, man, you get a bunch of people on the hunt to build a custom car and achieve something. We've always used, the sum of its parts. It was always bigger than the sum of its parts. It was always that theory of non-summativity. And so, Mobsteel became about this, group of people that could accomplish some pretty cool things and compete with some pretty cool brands and big names. And, to take a brand that when we dropped the Lincoln, at our first show, and people were like, what the heck? That's this ride and that. Why the hell would you bring that? And the criticism, and to, march through that with some real talent in the building. And then next thing you know, you're on, Ford is, giving you a design award, and you're on stage and validating your brand. And, when you told somebody, man, someday I'm going to be building these for, athletes and entertainers, and, some people chuckle, and next thing you know, you're building cars for athletes and entertainers. I just think no matter what you're trying to share, Mobsteel has been proof of, if you put your focus on that and you all align yourselves correctly, that, you can do it, but we had to learn that. That was a 17-year overnight success. Remember, this whole journey, although was payment enough each step of the way, because it was so much fun and so exciting. And it really wasn't about the money, because we were getting to live just such an incredible journey. So it was kind of that what we were sharing. Like, look, if you just shoot for some different things and some different goals together, and it's just not about profit, or it's just not about this, you can make some really cool things happen. And whether that's how people spell success or not, it was how we spelled it at the time. Because I grew up watching, like, anything's possible. I grew up watching same thing as you, right? MTV Cribs.
Yeah.
And I'm watching these lime green Lambos, and these people just knew money all over the place, man. And for me, it was like, at the time, was reasonable. I thought, well, I could be a millionaire by the time I'm 25. I mean, this doesn't seem like a big deal,
right,
right? Because people were just like getting rich over the stock market and all these things, and like, it was just madness in the 90s. It was madness. And man, I'm going to tell you, when I watched that stuff hit a wall, and I realized right away that I was brought up much differently than that MTV Cribs stuff. I was brought up in a shop, and I was brought up to help myself and work hard, and all these other things. It was much, much different than what I was being shown as what you should be shooting for on TV. And I realized how that was getting more and more distant from reality. Like, it hit me like sooner than everybody else, because I was working in those plants. I was watching businesses shut down. I was watching people struggle, and I was watching a trend that I knew was going to be here for a long, long time. And I started turning back and looking at what was influencing us, and I said, that's not going to be influencing anybody anymore. Brands like Mobsteel will be more and more relevant as time marches on, because it's what people are going to be able to build common ground with and identify with. Like, that nobody's going to be, hitting it big like that. People are going to be working hard again, and some of these times are here to stay for a while. And the brand just became more identifiable with people. It became a little more relevant to the lives they're living. And and we've always valued what people have done, what American workers have done, and what they've built. And it's not just, we celebrate the car, which is cool, because look at the talent. Look what they've built. It's incredible. It's inspired me to develop a whole brand around it. So it's something that's worth celebrating. So that really became our focus. But as we matured and we started growing as a business, we realized, like, the story to share is a little broader than that, because it's really celebrating what they've built. These communities, these schools, the infrastructure, and really the wealth. Because the wealth was what made all these people's lives fantastic, and gave them security, and and that's what a lot of people are missing nowadays. We think our indifferences are whatever we're being poised in front of us to say, hey, here's what you need to hate each other over, or here's what you need to argue about, or it's you against you, or it's the right against the left, or whatever it is, right? Whatever they're saying it is, we all have one common problem, and that's we have a deterioration of the wealth that fed these communities. We're not making things in here anymore, and Detroit's real proof of that. So if we can share that message and say, hey, here's how we get back to it. I don't know if it works or not, or whatever, but at least we can draw some attention to it as a brand, and in the meantime, try to show some success in action. Like, okay, this is what we're talking about, and we're backing it up. We're testing it. We're saying, maybe if we start manufacturing things again here, and we start doing them with the right intent, right? And it revolves around the customer, and it revolves around the employee, right? And building that wealth back into them and their communities, and giving them security, and building value back in each other. Whether it's leaning into each other as industry, or leaning into each other, and like we do at Mobsteel, and building brands together. My crew and myself, that's our whole mission, right? Is how do we act and behave, and build a culture as a company that's inviting for talent, and inviting for people to continually build value, and also build a business that rewards that. Says, look, here's a path, here's an avenue for us to rebuild ourselves. And we always stand around and wait for somebody to create that opportunity. So we would like to build a model that says, here's how you create the opportunity for yourselves, and here's what it looks like. Because most of the people, including myself inside of that building, are only really have the foundational experience and influence of the people around us. And we've built on that, and we've, kind of picked what we feel creates success, and, and try to do that. And it's just, how do you recreate that path? How do you say, okay, listen, maybe we can start up some small businesses, if it values the American worker this way and everything, and it's not just about profit. Does it work? I don't know. So far, so good. At least in terms of branding, our brands, have been received very, very well. And people have cheered for us and rooted for us, and big companies have rooted for us and validated us and aligned their brands with us and aligned their missions, have lined up with us and the values. And so I really feel like we're onto something, and it's worth sharing. So, it's a heck of a lot of fun. I don't know where we started with that, but
no, that's great. No, yeah.
You just gave me an open funnel to paint the picture I wanted.
Dude, it's gold, Adam. It's gold. And it's funny because a couple things to unpack. I came from like the mini truck world, although, I remember watching Gleaming the Cube and seeing a 65 Lincoln going, man, I want one of those. But coming up in the mini truck world, Courtney Hollowell, rest in peace, was a big name. And he, he has, as the famous kind of Wyatt Strange quote, and it kind of ends with, others laugh at us when we spend hours on end working on our trucks, which you could say cars, trucks, yet shake our hands when we are done. And, I think about that and kind of get goosebumps because I go, it ties into what you just said. It's when I think of your brand, I remember 20 some odd years ago, and we were all younger, right? We were all kind of, it was a different era, the 90s, the grunge, the different things that kind of, that drove a lot of things. But like, you guys have grown just like, all of us should grow. We should be in a better place maybe than our 20s, when we're in our 40s. And I remember, some of the apparel that you guys had, and I loved it. It was kind of more brash and stuff, but I've seen you guys grow like as people, as a, as a business, as a community. And that's the one thing that I appreciate. I mean, I look up to companies like you guys because I go, wow, look at Adam. He's doing a motivational speech, which, by the way, you kind of just did on this podcast. So thank you. And I think about it and say, man, like, you see the success, the hard work. It's like it motivates me to go, you know what? I want to be a better person. I want to try a little bit harder. And I mean, I just want to say, I mean, truly from a guy in the scene that loves what you guys do, man. I appreciate you, man.
Oh, I appreciate it, man. That means a lot. Especially coming from a mini trucker. I mean, that's literally one of the most influential car communities to what we do now. The suspension, the revolutionary concepts of all the different types of air ride, and that all comes from the mini truck world.
Yeah.
I remember I grew up with these kids, the Hammonds, and Brett, who became an asset to us. He's the one that kind of taught us how to use CAD, and these were those moments of leaning into each other when we were building our company. We were trying to grow, just like we were. The little last comment here about kind of getting a little more sophisticated and trying to educate ourselves and move forward as a company and not rely on people to machine stuff for us, and start vertically integrating some things and challenge ourselves to become better and create better products. And Brett, I grew up with Brett, and he had a convertible, one of the first convertible S10s I've ever seen in person.
Yeah.
And he'd cut the roof on and did the conversion himself and lowered it and had the saw blades and had the 8-inch pile drivers in it.
Yeah.
I mean, man, dude, he was the coolest. I mean, he had the mullet. He wore skids.
Yeah.
He was the coolest dude in the world, man. And,
and it's cool because it's all kind of
really good friends with him.
Yeah, and it's kind of cool because it's kind of coming full circle. A lot of us are, I don't want to, dare I say, midlife, but I mean, the whole mini truck scene is kind of back, and it's cool.
Oh, God, the little squares, because you can afford it now. It's amazing. And look how much money people are getting for them because we can afford them.
Yeah.
I love it.
And now we're like, hey, we want 15s. We don't want 24s because that's what we had, so it's kind of cool.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's kind of cool.
And as in the maturing part of it, like being able to look back and, and say, hey, I love the fact that, we had a persona, and, we still are. We talk about a company about not losing the DNA that created us. And we put a thumb on what that is and what impressed people. And that's the fact that we are just this gritty, no quit. It's brutal. Like, if you thought you would come in and work with us, the people that came in and had the chance to put their hands on watching my crew perform and the amount of hours and the diligence and the dedication, it really is truly incredible. And it separates people in a hurry. It really starts to thin the herd. And I always equated it to like having the Navy SEALs of workers, right? Or something of that nature, right? It's just not a circus. These are the best of the best. And effort and hard work and being effective, man, that's a skill. And that's a mental battle, and that's everything, and it's a physical battle. And to watch a group of, 10, 12 people do that intimately, like whether you're a production company that came and watched us, you can ask anybody. It is one impressive thing, and you don't see it a lot. And that was one of the most like rewarding things, and that's really what defined Mobsteel, and that's what defined our success, is that no quit attitude and that type of work ethic and that type of drive. And I know that's not for everybody, okay, but that we're the professional athletes of the shop world, and that's our bragging rights. And Mobsteel's success is that trophy that everybody gets to wear, that was in and out of that place and put in those 100+ hour weeks for 6 months on end, and never missed those due dates, and built the cars that we built with the money we had and with the time we had. And every time it was that sum of it just didn't equal the sum of its parts. It was always better because of everybody's effort. So, it was really that we held on to, and the rest of it, man, as we matured and we realized that we had an audience and we realized our impact we could make in terms of creating, some trends and influence in the wheel industry, and we could literally start manufacturing things here. And we had that personality, we had that DNA to face that challenge, to create Detroit Steel Wheel Co. and say, we're going to fight this battle. And we fight it today harder than we fought it the first day of just trying to manufacture something here, just trying to meet the demand we've created.
Yep.
And that's what we're committed to, because that's what we're preaching. So I have the right group of people. We're fighting that battle, but the rest of it, we had to mature, right? We had to understand how to control our character, to face that bullseye of success for everybody in that building. And that meant forcing ourselves to mature and control ourselves and manage our behavior. And at the end of that, that's what they call being mature. And when people look at us, and I love having this conversation with people, because some people look at us and they go, man, I remember how you used to be, man. And I love when people use the word sellout or something like that. And people want to say, I remember when you guys were wild and you used to do X, Y, and Z. I don't brag about that stuff anymore, but I will brag about this. Thank God I grew up, right? Thank God I learned how to control my behavior, because I would have never created the path for success or led any of these people to where they're at now. And as a matter of fact, my goal is that I can be better and better and better at that. Like, I can continue to learn how to control my behavior and point it towards success for them at a steeper path, because that's what they deserve. And as a business owner, if that's what your focus is, right? And just like Henry Ford said it, my job is to handle the money from my customer to my employees. That's it. So if I can do that in the grandest, most efficient way possible and create the greatest growth for them and show them how to get there, that's what I should do. Otherwise, I'm not the captain of the ship. Somebody else should do it.
Yeah.
So so that's everybody lives by that in our place. And when you see that clicking, it's incredible. And we face the same challenges everybody else does. Controlling, managing yourself and managing your behavior all the time is very, very difficult. And it's a process that you get better and better and better at. And Steve and I have control ourselves and have tried to become a master of that, and trying to get everybody else, to do that too. And, we do that through, some structure, and this is what's expected of you. And we're all going to work on this. And when we have those challenges in the workplace and we feel our culture is being effective, we stop and we go, hey guys, what's happening? Something's infecting this here. It's not a one of us, because all of our goal is to, be faced in this direction and be shooting for this. And so it's really interesting to try to create that culture, try to create that type of a team, and try to create that type of a business, because it's a high road. It's not the quick path to money. It's not what some people would say, here's how you write a successful business and a story, but it's ours. So we're trying to, at the end of it, even though it's a little tougher and a little longer road, I tell everybody in the shop, I said, it would be my great American business story is to turn around and say, this is what we were shooting for, and this is what happened. We've got a group of people that have created this much success, whether it's the journey and hopefully the finances
Mm-hmm.
and everything else, and the balance in their life, and now more and more stairs underneath them to be filled that are good paying jobs and bring money to the community and take raw materials and turn it into a product and create real wealth. And so, we're trying to do that as a team. So, every time the 99% of the time we're flying in the direction together, we are that, that's that group of Navy SEALs in there. And it's really neat to see it happen.
Oh yeah, that
It's really
cohesiveness.
neat. It's really neat. As somebody who started it and realizes that, you know, this machine that these people are running and doing between the wheels and the cars, and it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, no doubt about it. That cohesiveness that you need, as a business. And I wanted to ask you this. Your team and you and your team have built some very cool vehicles over the years. A few come to mind for me. Is there one that maybe stands out in your mind? I remember one. I always try to give photo credit, and I was doing some digging, and I found the '64. I knew that you guys had built it, but I kind of found out it was this guy named Joseph. I think Safina. Just this amazing car,
Yeah.
engine swap, all this stuff. Do you have one? Even if it's not a Lincoln that comes to mind that you go, man, that was one of my favorites. Maybe I wish I could have had it or whatever.
That car was really cool. They were all very cool. I mean, Joe's a great guy. Joe is awesome. We've had some really cool
That's
customers.
cool.
That car, some of the shots of that car, that interior of that car,
Yes.
that was one of the first vehicles that we put a mod motor in, an actual Ford mod motor, in. Very difficult. You have to remember, not only was there not a lot of stuff available for Lincolns,
Right.
there wasn't a lot of stuff available to put mod motors in cars.
Yeah.
There wasn't the right transmissions to talk to them. There wasn't the right brains, and we worked with some companies and did everything we could, and we built the best product we could at the money that we could demand at the time. And those vehicles were cool, man. They were awesome. I actually like that one. That was a great one. I like them all. I mean, we've learned a lot from all of them, and we've always raised the bar. And we've done that. Again, what does the brand demand today? What did it demand yesterday? And
Yeah.
we've always used those opportunities to build those cars. They're really loss leaders. They're very expensive to build. They take a ton of time, but that was really like what we enjoyed doing. That's what we shot for. Even if that's all we wanted to do was just build a sick car.
Yeah.
So when somebody gave us the opportunity, we would just go overboard. I would say the heavy hitter was probably
Yes.
one of the most iconic cars we've done.
Yeah.
Probably one of the coolest cars we've done. Probably one of the coolest, stories through my company. I built that car for my dad originally.
Wow.
My dad was a big influence on me. Pretty much passed down all the skill and the things that I've created success with. So it was kind of cool to work with him on that car. And he kind of let us, express ourselves where we didn't have a customer, telling us X, Y, and Z. So it was just kind of neat. And then we sold that car. It got a little crazy. We sold it. The guy that bought it kept that car for a decade, and he still owns it. And he is an awesome guy. You'll see G Rides on Instagram.
Yes. Yeah.
Their whole family is outstanding. We have such a great relationship with them. They've bought other vehicles that we've built. He has them in his family. He has a big family out there that they all work in the same industry or work for him, and they all collect cars and he has some incredible cars also.
Yeah. He's got the coupe
and then
too,
also,
right? I think.
yep. And then so that car was the first car that Ron and I worked on together. Was the heavy hitter.
Mm-hmm.
And Ron became a big part of Mobsteel. Ron still is a big part. Ron and I are really tight.
Mm-hmm.
So, Ron was just in the shop the other day and just texted me last night. So it really drew Ron in, because Ron was one of those people that liked Mobsteel, like the persona of it. He fit that crowd.
Yes.
He was a highly talented, a concept car builder who was, in a tough industry. And I wouldn't say, and he worked under some really cool people. Where the company he worked for has built some incredible things where he came from there to my place.
Mm-hmm.
Kenny Annis and all those guys at Special Projects have built some just nuts. Look up movie cars and concept cars. And so, again, it was a place where it drew in that talent. And then also, Ron was ready to retire as a painter when he came to work for me. He had left,
Wow.
he had left Kenny's place when the industry got really slow and devastated, and he was doing some bump stuff, and that really wasn't his gig. And he started media blasting, and I actually had him media blast some stuff first,
Mm-hmm.
and knew he was a painter, and then I'm somehow suckered him into painting something. I remember I was working like, you could tell he was cut from the same cloth, because I remember the first time we interacted, he came and he started working on some things, and he's like, all right, I hope you get these. Let's take these back to my buddy's shop, and where he was working bumping at the time. He said, let's paint this bumper, this hood, so they're not as dirty, because we were painting them in my shop, and these parts they were just dirty.
Mm-hmm.
We had to cut and rub everything, so I didn't have a paint booth. And I was managing it with filters and a makeshift booth the best I could.
Yep.
And so I took the parts to his place, painted them. I was on my 36-hour of work, no sleep.
Wow.
And I was driving back, and I remember him going, "Hey man, you all right?" I go, "Yeah, I'm fine." He goes, "You okay?" I go, "Yeah, I'm fine." He goes, "It looks like you're falling asleep." I go, "I'm not." And I don't know if he felt obligated to stay, but he just stayed, man. He just stayed and stayed. And then I felt like he didn't leave. I took him out of retirement and put him back on painting, put him back on, he's got 10 years on us.
Wow.
So a decade later, he looked at me, and we were actually redoing the heavy hitter. And he just said, "Man, this is it for me, man. This is the last deal." And we had the heavy hitter for about a year. And him and I had talked, and we talked about him moving on, and, maybe doing something a little bit different instead of, what he was doing. It's labor intensive. It's a young man's game. And there really wasn't anybody to come in behind him. And, we just didn't do the volume of builds,
Mm-hmm.
To have somebody come in and have them mentor. And I was hoping that we could have started some sort of program with them and had to mentor people. And I may still will, but,
Yep.
so that car was very iconic. It was a cool project with my dad. It's with we have a great relationship with them. That car will come back during the 100th celebration. The Archangel and the Heavy Hitter both will be there.
Awesome.
For that celebration. It was the car that introduced Ronnie and I, and also was the one he really truly retired as a painter on, as I got him to come out for another decade.
Yeah, that was technically the 5.0 version, right? That's what it was dubbed, right? I think.
Yeah, yep. So the car was a decade old, and now it was time for some of the things that we've learned as a crew are the neatness and the tidiness of building a car, and the new stuff that was available to us, Lincoln products that were available now that people are making in the industry, and all kinds of neat aftermarket stuff. And we were working with Bear now, had some really good quality brakes instead of the other stuff that was on the market being offered, and just some really cool stuff. And we worked with some of the very, very first ones of those, very, very first items, trying to first put the fuel injection on those cars,
Yep.
And now getting to experience some of the new Holley Sniper stuff that is going on everything. So it works flawless, and fighting through some of those very first mod motors, and
Yes.
and trying to get those on an old school car, and doing the stuff with Ford Performance, when we were doing the mod, the twin turbo stuff on the F100 on the TV show, and fighting through some of those battles. And all of those moments were those challenges are where you take giant leaps as a company. We had influence all around us, people from the industry, people from, a Ford Performance and Ford Motor Company, and designers and directors, and everybody interacting with you and giving you their foundational experience and knowledge in those moments. And we grew by leaps and bounds. So we love those challenges, whether it's tough times or tough projects or being the first to the table. God, it was so much fun. And regardless of, man, the last one we did was so much better than the other one, but man, that's because, we've really been just neat stuff and it's because we're right in the heart of it. And we're right next to it. We're right where they build these things. We're right where the experts are at. And that's why we just brag about the industry, so it was really cool. And it was getting to, and again, that was all benefits of, us growing up as a company and interfacing with, some really valid, people.
Yeah, some big companies, and it's crazy when you start really getting into it and building those relationships. The sky's the limit, and
these big companies have some serious talent in them. The workers inside of these buildings are crazy smart, crazy talented. They have created a structure that they draw the best talent, and they have great budgets, and so people, whether they were used to be in the industry or something like that, it's pretty neat to have always have those people around, and you don't even access those resources all the time. There's so much of it. And even at my age and the amount of time I've spent in this industry, it's still like, you're like, Jack, I didn't know you did that. Or you're like, Sherry, you're in charge of, this whole 10-speed program, this global transmission, or like you had no idea. Like you can know these people for a decade and they may just be people that don't really talk about what they do. And then when you start really diving into what they do and what they do for the automotive industry and their talent, you're like, holy smokes, like I could have used this information.
Yeah, really.
7-8 years ago. It's probably why they didn't open their mouth, but it's cool.
We're talking with Adam Genei from Mobsteel. Look up Mobsteel, of course, on all social media platforms. Just a couple more questions for you. You hinted just a moment ago, I did see through social media that there was something in the works that's going to kind of tie into the Woodward Dream Cruise. Now, I got a chance to go years ago, kind of just for one evening, because we were going down to Indy Truck Bash that weekend, but we had flown up to Michigan. I didn't get to experience the whole thing, but we all know that Lincoln is this year's the 100th anniversary. Goes back a long time. Can you give us any hints at kind of what's to come as far as what you guys got boiling over there?
Yeah, we are going to have a Lincoln. We're going to unveil a Lincoln there, and I'm pretty sure it's not a complete secret. So Emma didn't give me any guidelines.
Oh,
so
cool.
If I spill something, my bad. But I like to be transparent with my audience. I'm an honest guy. So we're doing a Lincoln. We're doing we'll just say we're doing a Lincoln.
Yep.
And I'll let you in on kind of the theme of it, the aesthetics. It's the outrun aesthetics, and you're really gonna dig this because this comes from the mini trucking days and the '80s, and it's all that that pop looking stuff and the Memphis style fader stuff. It's called the Motor City Vice. It's got some really cool colors on it. We've worked with Brooke Banham, who has come up with some exclusive. We've designed some exclusive repeating patterns and some designs that go with this vehicle. The vehicle is, again, like the outrun aesthetic. So it's like, it's got this really cool kind of like lighter bluish gray color, and it's got some colorful brakes and suspension. And we're doing this really cool theme between fashion and the vehicle where the interior components, there's exchangeable components that you pull off the seats and the door inserts and things in the Lincoln. In the stock spots of the Lincoln of this black interior, and you put in, the different color combinations and the different patterns, and those will also coincide with, the Nike swoosh on your shoes, and so it's going to have some fashion involved in it in the trunk, and so you can make your apparel, your kicks match your vehicle. We all know kind of, the kicks and the car business go hand in hand, so we just kind of combine those two, and it's just kind of something fun, and it's just something different. I think one of the cool things about what we can do now is just, kind of be expressive and kind of be in the moment or ahead of things. Like we started building this car a couple of years ago, so this was way ahead of kind of the trend, but it's a good timing for it. So we decided we want to finish it up and unveil it there. I mean, the fact that we're a part of Lincoln's 100th celebration at the Woodward Dream Show is, that's killer. I mean, as somebody who played in that Lincoln and used to cut them out and put them on the fridge, and then, someday, eventually got to build them and share that with everybody, to be a part of that celebration. So we want to get that car wrapped up. Brooke has full-scale artwork that's absolutely gorgeous that he did of this vehicle, his version of this vehicle. So, again, being able to work with a world-class designers right here in the Motor City that do everything from design brand new vehicles, instructor at CCS, and he also designs clothing and shoes and things like that. So to have that talent and be able to just inject that right into Mobsteel's brand, come on, we're having a ball, dude. This is really surreal. It's killer. So I can't wait. We're gonna be hanging out down there. I hope everybody comes down. We don't get to do a lot of these events, and we pick these very carefully. This is going to represent us well. M1 Concourse has given us this beautiful spot. We have a whole spot for Mobsteel. So come down. We're going to have Detroit Cookie Company there and a bunch of our friends from the Historical Society and everybody here in town. And we have friends flying in from Scottsdale and all over the world. It's during the Dream Cruise. It's a couple million people. I can't even explain to you how many cars and the varieties, and it's really surreal. Just come on out, figure out how to get out here. I don't know. We'll help you in any way we can. Let's do it.
Oh
Let's get
yeah.
out here. We're gonna kill it.
Hells yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna try to make it up, and I'm looking forward to it. I wanted to, before we end, we talked about Detroit Steel. You talked about for a moment Detroit Steel Wheel Co. And I mean, I love the brand. I really do. I just wanted to hit on, because I think it's such, like you said, that there's a demand. To me, it kind of started off as like maybe one or two choices. I went on the website the other day, which, by the way, folks, super user-friendly. Love the website. There's so many choices that people have. And I love that you guys, it ties into the name with the steel. It has that manufacturing tie-in as well, and you're trying to kind of bring back and do your part for Detroit area. What would you just want to share with the audience in reference to like the Detroit Steel Wheel Co. in general?
First of all, I'd like to, thank. Now, I mean, obviously, I praise the crew all the time, but our customers, man, I can't thank them enough because it really starts with people demanding a product. And I think that us supplying the most valuable product we can to them for the best price. You know what I mean? Like,
yes.
Let's be honest with ourselves. It's not a $24 wheel that I marked up to 300 some bucks because it's gone through a bunch of hands and it sits in warehouses and right. I want to make this thing here. I want to build it right for my customer, and I want it to be the best I possibly can. And everybody inside of my building, that's all they care about is making that customer happy, and that makes me. That's what our whole goal is. So, first of all, everybody involved in being patient with that brand and waiting on product, and because the demand has been really incredible, but we haven't raised our price based on that demand. I haven't played games with our customers. I've kept what I believe is the best value for that product. It's because we're working as hard as we can, and we're not overpaying ourselves. We're being reasonable, but with what the economy's like and what people can afford, and we're trying to live by that. And I think we've found a really good balance. And I know, things are getting tough, and fuel prices have gone up, and our steel has tripled, and nobody can find workers in our supply chain. And our supply chain here in the U.S. is very tough. They already have a difficulty supplying us, and then add COVID and all these things. So they're working hard. But most of all, my people inside of the building have found efficiencies. We've changed some things in our operations, and we've changed things physically on the floor and the way we handle products. And we have done all of these so we didn't have to raise the price on our customers, because that's our focus. And it wasn't about, our pockets or anything like that. So, there's a lot of impressive stuff going on with the Detroit Steel Wheel Co. brand. And there's a lot coming. Like if we can show that this type of behavior is sustainable, even if we have to raise the prices a little bit because we can't fend off this whole inflation and our cost of living and everything, but if we can show, that our behavior works, and we have great product ready to go. We just are committed to making it here. So if I can say, man, anything, we have great interest from the automotive industries. We've had great interest from big retailers. We have a lot of options, but we first are concerned about getting that product directly in our customers' hands. We do it, we build these wheels for your vehicle. There's not many people that do that. The person that answers the phone is really incredible, that they can sit there and have the conversation with you, and through your modifications and what you've done to those vehicles, and especially you and I coming from aftermarket mini trucks, slam stuff. When you call to get something for these and you say you've changed an axle or anything, all of a sudden there's a big problem. We come from a custom car building world, and my crew does it the best. And we ship these things all over the world, and they fit the vehicles. You know what I mean? We're not in the practice of shipping things out that don't fit. So we try to get those as accurate as possible, and that's a talent and a service in its own. So the performance, and we have great product waiting for some really cool car segments, light truck, SUV, this growing Landover market, really cool stuff. But we can't supply the classic market and some of the ones we're doing now. So we want to stay focused on those customers. But very soon in the future, we are focused on scaling, as long as we're scaling here in the U.S., and we're doing everything we can to scale closest to home. We have found some other people in the industry to lean on, like-minded people who know that very soon, we're going to have to manufacture things here again, but we have to do it in the fashion of valuing the people inside of those buildings. So we've joined some like-minded people to start rebuilding a workforce together and start rebuilding some of this manufacturing capacity together. So I'm excited to see where this goes in the future. Um, and I'm excited for people to see what we already have sitting and waiting. I mean, we have some beautiful designs, some beautiful product, some things people have been waiting for. But the fact that people have been patient with this brand, and we have the rapport we do with this brand. There's nothing more than we'd love to do is get this product into everybody's hands in exactly the way they want it. But we want to do it in a fashion where it's being done here, and that wealth is being kept right here at home, and rebuilding these schools and the healthcare and people's ways of lives, and some of these communities that we do business in. It's these people don't have an easy time, so
Oh yeah.
we want to make sure we're fighting that battle first and being forward thinking, and so there's a lot on our plate as a company. It's just a small group of us, and our plate is full of everything but focusing on profit and lining our pockets. And it's crazy that I even have those people inside of a building agreeing to fight that battle with us. So it's just awesome.
Yep.
It's really cool to have that support. I just can't wait for people to see what's coming. We'll stay focused on our customers, and we'll stay focused on doing the right thing as a brand, even as we expand. And we expand our efforts right here at home. The processes that we're adding, we're making sure that we're making the right choices as a company for, the future of the globe and the planet. Are we manufacturing? Are we doing that? Are we doing that the smart way? Are we doing that the green way and the right way? And are we doing it forward thinking? Are we leading in everything? And that's what I challenge everybody in my business. If we're 2 years ahead of the curve in design, and we're 2 years ahead on what's next and what's cool, and we can set that trend, right? Can we apply that to everything? Are we leading the trend in what's next in marketing companies and how we market companies and how we treat and value people? Are we ahead of the trend on, if we're diving into a process or a procedure, is it the way that it should be done in the future? Is it the safest way and the best way and the most reasonable way? And is it the best product for my customer? And, are we weighing everything that way? So, this is not an easy fight that I'm asking out of my group and out of this brand. It's really stacks the deck against them. But at the end of the day, when they do pull that off, it really keeps separating us from the herd. It really points our ship in a complete different direction than these other brands. And as we keep continuing to create success year after year after year, and that needle keeps to point onward and upward, it's harder for people to catch this brand. So we want to make this not only the milestone for people to grab, but also the direction. We want some of these companies to turn around and say, okay, you know what, maybe we need to think about the way we restructure this or sacrifice some of this. And now the popular thing is to make it here. Maybe force them to start to turn that ship around and start to think that way, and show them that it's the right and popular thing to do. Or maybe in the future it was the profitable thing to do, and we're just the first people to the table.
Right.
We'll continue. Yeah, we'll continue to fight that battle. We're hoping that we do the right thing first, and the profits are in abundance later. That should be the battle.
Oh yeah.
So that's what you can expect out of Detroit Steel Wheel Co.
Hells
and that
yeah.
group in that building.
I would encourage people go to DetroitSteelWheel.com. You can see they're all transparent. You've got the wheel catalog with tons of designs. You also have the wheel price list, so you kind of know what you're getting into if it's going to fit your budget. Also, like to Adam's point, they'll do a lot of information gathering to make sure that you're getting the right offset. If you're not familiar with wheels, that's one of the most important things in terms of ordering, of course, along with the size. But we certainly appreciate, all of that information. I guess just to kind of close and sum it up, that, I'll say this, man, I've seen and I've heard it on this podcast with you, Adam, when you think about the commitment that you guys have, I've seen some of the motivational stuff where you've spoken, with the credit union and things like that, and all of the things that you see in your employees and the great folks that you have, man, and the message that you had today, man, I can't thank you enough. And listen, man, I know the sky's the limit for you guys, and I know you've got your lovely life. I got a chance to meet her with you guys out at SEMA, Pam, and all the team, man, Steve. They all do just a great job, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. We just, we have a great group of people, and, and that's what we're celebrating for sure.
Hells yeah. Well, hopefully we'll see you in August. Stay on the rise, as we always say, man, and we'll keep tagging you guys. And huge shout out to Emma. I don't want to end without saying thanks to Emma. I know she does a lot of kind of the social media stuff. I've got a chance to meet her at Lone Star Throwdown and SEMA and stuff. She's a great person. I just want to give her 2 thumbs up.
Yeah, she juggles a lot, man. She juggles a lot. Between what Steve and I put on her plate. And she's really she's really cool. She's been a shining star in the company, and she's been somebody who's wholeheartedly adopted how we write success, and she challenges herself all the time to be better and better. She handles a lot more than people think.
Yeah,
it's she handles quite a deal. She's an incredible person.
She's good at her job. Well, thanks for the support with Lincoln Addict, and we're going to keep supporting Mobsteel as well as Detroit Steel Wheel Co. Adam, have a great night with the family, and we'll talk to you soon, brother.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it. We'll talk to you, Jason.